Welcome to the April StoryCode Forum, and just a quick thank you again to the CUNY School of Journalism for hosting us for this for the March and this month's forum. So thank you, Amanda.
All right. First things first. Thank you for coming and for RSVPing and showing up. And you are not on the shit list.
You don't want to be on Ina's shit list.
So we're really excited. This has been a really interesting last couple of years for us at StoryCode. Well, actually, we only became StoryCode like a year ago. But one of the things that we are really excited to announce is, if you haven't noticed on social, we've been kind of announcing this, but the big thing we're doing differently that we're going to start changing, which we actually already have started changing with the launch of StoryCode Paris in a week, I guess, is that we are going global. And we're open sourcing the movement. So for those of you who are not familiar with the principles of an open source movement, the idea is that we want StoryCode to be a thing that everyone can do wherever they are, whatever city they're in. And so we are making it possible for people who are already running groups all over the world that deal with cross-media, immersive media, storytelling, to get together and be makers. We're proponents of people making. We're not talkers, we're makers. That's what we like to say. We're not an academic institution. We're people getting together to learn from each other. And the best way we thought that people could learn was to get together in their cities, do what's local to them, and create new immersive cross-media and transmedia storytelling. We no longer refer to ourselves as a transmedia organization because we invite people of all feathers, colors into it, anyone playing in the story technology space. So we're really excited. If you have friends in cities that you think might be interested in getting on board, please let them know to contact us. We have some other locations pending in the next few months, and we have some really exciting global stuff planned. So part of the fun of being a global organization is that we get to tap into things that are happening on a worldwide level, and we get to have events that are worldwide, which is really cool. And we're going to be building an open source toolkit for people who are working on either projects or applications, hardware, software that they do want to open source and they do want to share with our community. We're hoping we can put these things all in one place so that we can all play in the same toolbox. So that's our really exciting news, and so that kind of kicks off a new phase, and as of next month we'll be moving to a temporarily new home, which is NYU's ITP, which is like a perfect place for us to kind of get into our crazy experimental phase. So we're really excited that you guys are part of it, and that you will be part of a massively awesome global community. So welcome, spread the news, put it on social. If you're hashtagging tonight, use hashtag StoryCode, and we encourage you to hashtag second, third, fourth screens, whatever you need to do. And with that, is there something announced-wise?
No, I was just going to say, if you're a developer and you've got a story-based technology implementation that you've done that you're interested in releasing to the crowd, we're going to be creating an open source repository hub of story-based technology projects. So just let me know, and we'll put it up on storycode.org.
Cool. So tonight we're really excited. Our first presenter tonight is James Carter. He's been a long-standing member of the story community. This is his second time presenting.
First time, second time presenter, so congratulations.
First time, second time. That was not a tricky transmedia thing. That really was exactly what it sounded like. So we're really excited because James is just 4 days into his new production, his immersive experience called New York Hearts. And I know some people here have been already. Who's been? How awesome. Check it out. We have a loyal community. Check this out. So it's a New York-based project. And he's going to give us a hot off the presses look at what he's been working on. And we're really excited just to see what he's doing with location-based storytelling. It's local to New York. This is the second in a 4-part series, following a successful stint on the Lower East Side last winter, right? And so it's part walking tour, part love story. New York Hearts offers a new way for people to discover New York City by stepping into characters' shoes. Set in 4 different neighborhoods, participants enjoy drinks, we like that, and other surprises from local businesses, which are integrated into an audio story shared over mobile devices. So he'll tell you how you can experience it as well at some point during the presentation. And supporting extensions of the audio story include character websites, online character blogs, original music and visual arts. So welcome, James Carter.
How's it going tonight? Yeah! Hi everybody, how's it going tonight? Alright! Yeah. Hey, Gita.
I'm sorry I'm late. It's okay. Yeah.
I like yours for real.
Do it.
Hi, my name is James Carter, and I'm really happy to be here tonight. I wanted to start things off with a story. Imagine that. So last night I was getting ready I was getting my presentation together for today, and I, as some of you probably have done numerous times, went to go look for my presentation, my New York Hearts presentation, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it anywhere. I was like, oh man, where is it? And I went through all of my stuff, and then I finally realized it was on my old computer, because I just got a new computer a couple months ago, and I transferred everything over except for evidently this one presentation. So yeah, so at late at night I was like trying to pull up this laptop that just crashes on you every time you take the plug out of it, and it rebooted 3 times, and then finally came up, and I dug into the folders where I thought it was, and I finally found it. And thank goodness, and I put it on a stick and got it over to the right computer, and I was able to get this ready. But in the meantime, as I was looking for it, I found another presentation, and that presentation was dated, it was titled StoryCode April 24th, 2012, which is exactly a year ago today. So I'm actually a 3-time presenter, if you really count, because I did a proper presentation of my play Feeder, A Love Story, but I also did a 5x5 last year. And that 5x5, which John's going to do one later, is, sort of, you've been here before, hey, this is what my idea is, this is what I want to do, and, anybody interested, come on, let's go make this stuff. And I did that exactly a year ago this week, and I've made 2 New York Hearts since then. So I just want to say, anybody who's looking, no. yeah. No, anybody who wants to do it, do it. I think that what Ina said at the top here is that we want to be a community not just of talkers, but of makers, of doers. And that was sort of what was happening for me just a year ago. Is like I had been coming to a lot of story codes, and I had been going to other conferences and hearing a lot of people talk about things. And I realized that, we gotta make stuff, we gotta start exploring these technologies. We gotta explore different ways of telling stories. So that's what I decided to do, and so I created this thing called New York Hearts. And Ina already read sort of the blurb about it, but I'll get into it a little bit more. What it is it's a story walk, or what I'm calling story walk, and you go through different neighborhoods in New York City, and you get to go to different locations where the story takes place. The story is an audio story that you listen to on your mobile device as you walk around to these different locations. And what I did first, like Ina mentioned, is the Lower East Side. That was part of the Gameplay Theater Festival, which is a part of the Brick Theater in Brooklyn. I was fortunate enough Margarita, who came in late, is the artistic director, the curator of that festival, in which they explore different kinds of games in theater settings, which is really awesome, and you should go check it out in July. So, with that in mind, everything I'm telling you happened in the heat of July in the Lower East Side, not winter, as Ina said, because it's gonna. No, it's okay, but it's just a lot hotter. So what I ended up doing is I partnered with 6 different local businesses. They were all small businesses. One was a yoga studio at which you took a yoga class. Yes, a yoga class. It was anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half full yoga class, and then you went out into the Lower East Side for 6 hours in the searing sun and, and went to all the other locations. It sounds really awesome, doesn't it? So I can imagine that there was tons of people coming through. You know what? I realized people don't want to walk around the Lower East Side for 7 hours in the heat of July. We had a lot of really wonderful people come through, and the people that did come through had like the best time. But I think that when you tell someone it's 7 hours, they're going to do yoga, and it's $55, they kind of get a little concerned about that. One of the things that came out of this that was really awesome was I learned, and that's the evolution of, I'm going to explain to you today the evolution of what happened with me in the creation of the first process to the second. The other places that I worked with is the Fat Radish, which is a restaurant, a contemporary art gallery, Lost Weekend NYC, which is a coffee shop, My Plastic Heart, which was an awesome toy store that takes visual artists create these things like characters, and then My Plastic Heart actually makes them into, they fabricate the toys. So when you got to that place, you got a little toy. And then of course, one of the best bars in New York City, Parkside Lounge. All 6 of them came together to be the partners for the Lower East Side. So I used a few different platforms to tell the story. Like I mentioned, you hear the story on an audio on your mobile device, and I tell the story over Movable Feast, mobile media, or Movable if you go into the iTunes store. Also, I used Tumblr, and I used YouTube. So let me explain a little bit about Movable Feast and what it is. It's essentially a tour or a walking story experience that you can tag story elements to those locations. In the case of Movable Feast, what you can do is you can tag text, photo, video, and audio. Like I mentioned, the spine of all of the New York Hearts story walks are the audio. And the audio sort of was the main part of it, but then as sort of periphery, I used text. And in this case, I used each location to tell, or to offer a poem. Now the poem isn't something I wrote, actually. I did a Kickstarter campaign and raised some money to do the first part of this, and it really got things going. And my backers, I asked for them to give me a sentence or a word or a phrase about someone that they loved or loved in some point in their life. And then I put them all together and created 8 different poems. This is written by 3 different people. My love, my family, my home, my world. In a world full of horses, you're a zebra. I thought I knew what love was. Then I found you and learned I had never really loved before. So, but it was really beautiful because there was probably about 30 different sentences or words, and I was able to really take them, and if you go through, you can look at Movable Feast and you can go to it and experience everything. Or if you don't have a mobile app, you can go to the NY-Hearts website, and all of the content is archived there for the Lower East Side. So if you want to check that out, you can. But all of the poems were really appropriate to what was happening at those locations, and it's just one of those happy accidents, and I love that. There were some photos that I was able to take at each location, and then the video was an interesting sort of aspect that I learned quite a bit about. When you're in a location, it's very easy to sort of be in that location and listen to something and take in your surroundings and be present. And then when you're looking at video, we all have seen this, walking down the street and people bumping into each other and whatnot. But what it does automatically is it takes you out of your environment. And the whole point of doing this experience is to be in your environment, to experience the Lower East Side, to taste the tastes, to smell the smells, and to hear the sounds. I was really trying to play around a lot with the audio at first, going, well, do we want to put a music bed underneath it, or do we want to put sound effects or things like that? And then it just finally dawned on us, let's just make it clean. It's just this audio, because when you were on the Williamsburg Bridge, which is the last stop on the Lower East Side, it was loud, and it really, so you were there. I'll show you in a second what I ended up doing with the video for the second part, which is the Park Slope part. But I decided essentially to cut things down to about 25-second videos that instead of doing big interviews, which is what I did in Lower East Side with all the businesses, thinking, oh, people will be really interested in wanting to learn more about these businesses and find out why they opened up in the Lower East Side. And no, nobody cared about that, which was really sad for the businesses. But for me, I was really happy because I learned that if you're going to do anything with video in a public place and you want people to continue taking on that public place, make it very quick. Maybe make it something that they can relate to. So I'll show you a little bit about what that ends up being. Now I'm going to share with you just a short snippet of the first part of the Lower East Side experience. It's the sound, the audio part of it. This is Jill, and she's talking to Sal on the anniversary of their first date. And she takes him to all of these different locations. And the first place that they met was this yoga studio down on the Lower East Side called Yoga Hut.
Hey Sal, glad you made it. Met you here a year ago today. You walked in the door and I literally tripped over myself. I never told you. I'm such a dork. Do you know where I can get a mat? I just point it. Terrified I'd say something stupid. In class, you were so... All I could think was, why? Why did this cutie position his tight tushy right in front of me? My mind raced. Bad for yoga. Was all off balance. Couldn't even get up into tree pose, and that's my pose. I rock me some tree pose.
So Jill and Sal have their first date, and not too long after that, Jill discovers that there's another woman, of course. What happens is that, I'm not spoiling anything, that Sal leaves this lovely young lady, Polly, for Jill. Well, of course, Polly finds out about Jill and is unhappy about it, to say the least. And so what I decided to do was use YouTube and create video blogs for Polly's character. So she had 4 different video blogs leading up to the opening of the Lower East Side experience. And so you got to sort of see her experience the breakup, which is what this is, and then over those 4 episodes, essentially, decide to do something to Sal, which ended up manifesting in the audio story that people took online. If you didn't see the video, it didn't matter. You understood what was happening in the story. It was pretty clear. But it's fun if you can put the 2 of them together. And I'll let you meet Polly.
Been 3 weeks. Up and left just like that. Knew something was going on. Every week the same yoga class. Yoga my ass. Polly knows there's someone else. There's gotta be. Don't know who. We're gonna find out. Now he's all sweet and smooth, but boy, is damaged. Doesn't mean you treat people like that. Sal? You think you can just leave Polly like you've done something on the curb? I don't care if you got issues. Everybody's got issues. Polly doesn't take that kind of crap from nobody. Sal, you're gonna regret being born.
And she follows through on her promise. She's a little bit scary. The thing I wanted to say about Polly that was fun is, and I don't know how many of you are creators and have had this experience, but I had the opportunity to have audience response to Polly be so strong that I was actually not going to have her in the series at all anymore, and now people have asked me to bring her back, and so she's coming back here very soon. So keep an eye out for Polly over the next couple of weeks. She may be making appearances in your friendly neighborhood YouTube. The other thing that I used is Tumblr, because what I'm doing with all 4 of the story walks that I'm creating through New York Hearts is I want to collaborate with different artists. To me, I mean, if you go to my website, it's one muse, collaboration breeds beauty. And I want to try and like engage and bring to light to other people as much as possible new artists. So the first episode of New York Hearts, which is in the Lower East Side, is Jill, and she was a papel picado artist, which is a paper cutter. He does paper cuttings, and this is actually by Margarita Rodriguez. Sorry, let me say that again. Margarita Rodriguez is the artist, if you want to check her out. She's really, really wonderful. She does these intricate paper cuttings, and I was able to use many of her pieces. She focuses on the body, and this specific piece, the hand, was featured in the walk portion of it. So if you went on that, you heard about that part of the story. The other thing that she does is that she's a tattoo artist. So she's liking and sharing and putting all of these tattoos out there. And for some reason, she's really into owls. But it was a lot of fun to create these elements. And actually, I was really blown away that I don't have any official numbers, but I was surprised like how many people came through just to check out, especially at the end, because there was a direct link from Movable to all the extra story extensions, and that was the one that people really were interested in going to. Just so you know, the next incarnation is going to feature a musician, which is Sal, and then the third incarnation is going to feature theater, a playwright, and then I believe that the fourth one we're going to have dance. So the idea is that we're going to cover all these different arts over the 4 different story walks. So this brings us to present day, sort of. I just skipped over the last 9 months, which was me sitting in my dark apartment wondering if I ever really wanted to do this again, trying to figure out what the next step was. And you know, if you all haven't been there, if someone out there has not been there, curse you, because that's part of the awesome part of the creative process, where you question every fiber of your artistic being and wonder whether or not that you've made the right choices in life. And then you come out of the winter of discontent and decide, yeah, let's do this thing. Let's make number 2. And I'm really happy I did, because what happened through all of it is 2 things. I made enough money in the first one to make my second one. So my intention all along, has been like, let's kickstart this. Let's really do what Kickstarter was meant to do, and that's like kick you off, and then try and make some money on it. And I didn't make a lot of money, but I made enough money to make my second one. And it looks as though I'm going to end up making enough money to make my third one. We're tracking that way, which is awesome. And my feeling is, if your art is, if you're financially feeding, if one piece of your art is financially feeding the next part of your art, then you're doing something right. And that's really, really exciting to me. And I'm happy to talk about that a little bit later if anyone has questions about that. Park Slope, like Ina said, just opened last weekend, and we're really excited about it, and I hope that you guys all will, come through. This time around, the other thing that I did was that I cut all the fat. There's no yoga class. Instead of 7 hours, it's 3 hours. Instead of 8 locations, it's 6 locations. Instead of 6 businesses, there's 3 businesses. And those businesses are Babeland, which is a really wonderful adult toy store. If you guys don't know it, you should check it out at New York Arts. And then Deluxe, which is a really, really great coffee shop, and Bar Toto, which is a bar and restaurant. I have to say, the other thing that sort of shifted from last time to this time is, last time I had partners, which meant in a sense that I was paying them for certain goods and services. And this time around, I was able to get all 3 of them sponsored. And that did a couple of things. Not for me, because I ended up dropping my ticket price from 55 down to 25. It's a shorter experience, and there's a few less things happening, but the idea behind it was I didn't have to worry so much about my overhead when I got sponsorship, and I'm really going to be making that the angle going forward. Essentially, if I can't get sponsorship from a business, I probably won't work with it, unless it's like the most amazing thing ever, and I can't, you know, resist it because artistically it's awesome. But I just wanted to like share that with you as far as like sort of business speaking, that the sponsorships have really helped this time around cut costs and cut down the ticket price. So this next little bit, I just wanted to show you because the video I told you about last time was all interview, and it was about 2 minutes long each, and I'm just happy about this because and it's a lot of fun, and it's quality isn't great here because it's really optimized for mobile, but it'll give you an idea. And the reason I wanted to share it is because I became obsessed with a thing called Vine. I don't know if you guys have been playing around with this little app, and most people don't like it. Or carrots. No, some people don't like it that much. And you know, I think that it has a lot of things that could be better, but the one thing that I really enjoy about it is that it's so spontaneous, and it's been allowing me to Vine on New York Heart's Twitter handle and put out things in real time. Last time it was a lot of Instagramming, and there's been photos that have been going out, but people have been really responding to the Vines. So what I've done is I've taken the Vines in each one of the locations and I've stitched them together and made a little bit longer video. So this is the one from the first stop, the Grand Army Plaza. So anyway, it's nothing special, but it's sweet and quick, and people are watching it. And I guess that's what I wanted to share, is that that's like something that people will watch when they're on a tour like this, as opposed to you know, an epic video that sort of tells a really long story. The future. So there's a few things that I want to do, and I guess I don't have any more slides. This is it. I'm going to do now what I did a year ago. I'm going to tell you what I have planned. None of this is in motion except for part 3 of New York Hearts, which is going to happen in September. And it's massive, and as some might say, epic. My master plan is this. There's 2 more New York Hearts story walks that are going to happen. One's going to happen in September, and then the idea is that the other one's going to happen this time next year. The other thing that's happening between now and then is that I'm creating a web series that is launching. So this New York Hearts is a foundation for a web series that I'm creating. And all the characters that are happening right now are going to actually be minor characters in the web series. And then the web series is going to have a main protagonist named Sarah, who sort of arises. And we start following her, and she's struggling with some things that I'm not going to tell you about. But they're really interesting and internet-based. And what ends up happening is she decides that she needs to figure some stuff out. And so she decides to go to a silent meditation retreat for 10 days. This brings us back into the real world, if you will, in which I want Sarah to be in the middle of a room in a live theater, immersive, what I'm calling it a theater installation experience. And Sarah's going to be sitting meditating the whole time, and you get to go in and sort of you can maybe sit with her, you can be with her, you can listen to the chanting that's happening, and then you can go to other rooms. And then these other rooms are going to be designed out by musicians, sound designers, puppet designers, videographers, like really, really wonderful. The designers I'm talking to right now are really, really awesome theater designers that you've probably seen their work and you just don't know it. And I can't wait to see how this all builds out, because the idea is that you're going through different rooms that represent part of Sarah's consciousness, her past, present, and her imagination. So I'm really psyched about this, because what will ultimately end up happening is the web series will be ending at the same time that the live theater installation opens, and then I'm going to run part 4 of New York Heart Story Walks at the same time, so all 3 are running in the city simultaneously. So, having said all of that, I'm really excited about it. There's a lot to do. Obviously, I need to raise some money, so if anybody out there is interested in giving some dough, or knows people who might be interested in doing that, I'm always interested. But this is a community of creators, and I know who you are. I know that you're not all richies. Yeah, so what I would rather you do is come up and say, hey, that sounds like a really cool idea. I know an awesome scenic designer who might be interested in being a part of what you're doing. Because we're looking at like 10 to 12 different rooms that I want to design, and right now I have 6 designers. That's not nearly enough. The idea is that I would really want things to expand and explode. Looking for video designers, multimedia designers, coders. I want to create a room that's interactive, so that when you walk in, people touch things and it affects the room in a certain way, and you realize that you're affecting Sarah's stream of conscious. There's a lot of really great ideas that are going on up here, and I just need the creatives to bring it to pass. So that's what I'm doing. For the rest of today, which is not going to be very much longer, I'm going to do something a little different. You always get to hear creators talk about their work, but we rarely get to hear from the participants or the audience. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm actually bringing up, a couple of them are creators, but they came through New York Heart's Lower East Side, and they also came through the recent Park Slope one. And they're going to basically, I'm going to ask them a few questions, and we're going to just start a little discussion, and they're going to tell you what their point of view is from a participant's background. So Brian Fountain, if you come on up here, he is a game and story designer, and yeah, I guess you got a microphone and all that. Charlotte Purser is here, and she is, if any of you are having problems with public speaking and want to learn how to do that better, Charlotte teaches people how to do that. And then also the venerable Mark Harris.
Why do I get venerable?
I don't know. Who's also a filmmaker and story designer and coder. I just realized I've been off mic most of this time. I hope people at home don't hate me. So this is going to be a little, let's see here. So I'm just going to ask a few questions to get things started off. So hey guys, hey, thanks for being here. You guys have done both story walks, and I guess the first question is, what was different from the first time to the second time for you personally, and how did it improve?
You mentioned a big aspect of it is the length is more concise now, and there are fewer locations. So the story is a little tighter, is a little more compact, and sort of moves very quickly. Which it's hard to say is one better than the other, but it's different, and they're both enjoyable. I found myself enjoying the amount of story that I was getting throughout the entire piece as well. So I like that change.
Cool.
Yeah, the definitely shorter. The first one was I mean, it was fun because it was an adventure, but many of us didn't go to the last location.
The last location for you all. Okay, so the second to last location was after 5.5 hours of walking down around the Lower East Side was a bar. And everyone hung out at the bar and had drinks. And then the last location directed you to walk out into the middle of the Williamsburg Bridge to listen to the final part of the story. and that's what Mark is saying.
Yeah,
so people got drunk instead of walking out.
Strategically, that was a tough call to leave a cool bar with drinks in it to go out and walk out to the middle of the bridge.
Yeah, by the time we got to the bar, we weren't moving on. And this one, we took in the whole, definitely took in the whole thing in the length. Help that. Sure.
And the last location, Mark?
And the last location is a bar.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
it's
yeah.
But what's good about it though is we in the first one, it wasn't only that we had drinks, but everyone kind of came through there. So we wound up talking to other people on the tour, and that's kind of what the beautiful part of ending it in a bar is. You can all just catch up.
Yeah, and the cool thing for me that I really love, of course, I mean, like this seems like a no-brainer too, is that you go to different locations on different days and there's different things there. So if you went through the Lower East Side on a Friday or a Saturday, you just went to the bar and then went to the last location. But on Sunday, Mark came through with his wife and they sat down and the Parkside Lounge, if any of you are interested in like barbecue, Sunday afternoons they barbecue. They just give out free barbecue, and it was a nice little sort of, unexpected perk. Yeah, so that happens a lot on this tour too. You'll find things that that you didn't expect.
That's right. I think it's different on different days, but you mentioned on Sundays, the day that Mark and I both did it. The farmers market, one of the first starting locations, has food trucks out there, which is I thought was kind of interesting too, because if you did sort of run late to the experience and you didn't grab something to eat and you had that thought like, oh, well, here's this amazing selection of food trucks as well to sort of start your experience off. So there are these kind of, in this new experience, small ways to sort of customize it to your taste in very small ways that are kind of interesting and compelling, which is, oh, I've never had this, so this is a great place to try this. Or a little dessert item, there's like a waffle truck there. I think it's still a farmer's market on Saturday, but on Sunday, so it even has a little bit of different experiences for the people that went through it, depending on what day that they go there, which is kind of an interesting component of it, I think.
So, Charlotte, do you have anything that you want to add, or talk about something that you liked in one of the two experiences?
Well, I liked both of the experiences very much. I would have to say the thing that I liked most about the second experience was that you got to see everything in bloom. And it's this love story and you're surrounded by flowers, and it was this love story and you're surrounded by all these flowers in Park Slope, and I was just astounded by how it just ended up being the perfect time of year to do it. When we did the Lower East Side, it was the middle of July, it was easily 110 degrees and I had a hangover. So you can imagine that this experience was a little bit different. But yeah, it was great. It was really great. And getting to walk around in the character's shoes really gives you a new sense of what a story can be.
So if you guys could, and I want to hear from all three of you guys, you all have different perspectives. If you could add something to the experience, whether it's story or technology, what would you like the next step to be? So I'm doing the next part in September, and I'll tell you one thing that I want to add to it that I haven't been able to do yet, and it's just always, I want to work with something like a Twilio that allows me to push text messages to people and prompt them for things as they're going along the way. Really what I want to do, and I'm going to sort of do this over the next week, in which I'm asking participants to hashtag NYHearts with photos so that we can start aggregating photos, user photos. But I want to do that in a more sort of fun way, and I think that the text will help. So that's something I want to do. What might be something you guys would find interesting?
I thought in the first one, the lead up to it was really interesting, like getting blog entries every week and getting the video blog of Polly. And I found that it was creating an idea for me before I even started the story, so that I went into it knowing that I was walking to a full world. Where this one, we didn't have that, the blog or the video logs of the other characters. I mean, I know we did from before and they are related, but it would have been interesting to have like, their music MySpace page or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting just to plus on to that. It's true, obviously like we as makers are very familiar with all these different technology options, but when you think about the idea that what you're really doing in some ways with the story walk is really kind of blowing out the walking tour, of enhancing that from a multimedia experience. I think for most people who are just familiar with that concept, you don't even have to bring so much more to the table. Even if it was simply, would you like to receive 3 or 4 emails before the experience from a character, or or giving them an easy way to opt in to that. I think for so many people, that would be like, oh my gosh, this is, and it doesn't even have to be a full-on month-long pre-blog experience or a Tumblr blog or anything. It could be something as simple as short little missives, and to sort of establish that world a little bit. That way, when you're walking in to it, it's less about building it from scratch and having already a connection to it, or at least getting a sense of what tone you might be walking into to do it. I like the idea of interactive components when you get there. I think for me, the only thing that I would have loved more about the non-business environments, the business environments do a lot of the work because obviously the people who've created these shops have put a lot of love and care into the interiors or the choices that they've made, and I think the experience does a really good job of honoring them and interacting with them and giving you points of references. There are certain locations that are outdoors that I found myself wanting to either be a little more directed or giving a point of focus. So if that is maybe one of the locations that has some initials carved into it on a tree, like even just something simple as like trying to find that tree or directing someone to that tree, that's something very physical and real that I can almost sort of share a moment with somebody or be around, unless it's instead of just a general location, like go to this spot and sort of project your experience onto it. I don't know, that's more of a taste issue than it is like an actual...
Well, that sort of was, there was a location in the Lower East Side that did that.
Yeah.
There was the East River Park where the seals are. I don't know if any of you know where that area is. There's seal sculptures, and people took a lot of pictures there and really had a good time around there, and it was very sort of specific as to what was happening. So that's good to hear. I like that. Thanks. Mark?
Well, I like the tactile. I still would like to have a tactile experience for like the map or a map or something. But that's pretty personal.
So I guess what Mark's saying is that, that right now, so for this iteration, last iteration we did Movable Feast, mobile media only, and so only iOS. This time I've put it on a mobile web as well, and so if you don't have iOS, you can access the content and go to those different locations. In both situations, whether it's on iOS or whether it's not, it's a digital map that's on your phone, and map you want to tap.
Well, I just think there's better opportunity for expression if you actually created a piece of art that's the map. Even if it's like a subway map that then was colored on by the characters or whatever. But just looking at maps on phones is just like the worst possible experience.
In James's defense, there are tactile moments.
I know. There are tactile moments. I'm just saying.
Yes. What did you get at Babeland?
In Babeland is a very tactile environment.
Well, we talked about this before, and like I still would prefer like. The other thing that really struck me this time was I did one leg of it alone. And I would have, especially since I was a musician, I thought, well, what if we had a song to play between locations? Because it's kind of a hike from the first one down to Babelands. And if you're by yourself, it's more fun all with a group, but if you're by yourself, I thought, oh wow, I'd love to have a song just to sort of carry me through to the next thing.
It's certainly like it's a curation issue, but I feel like there's part of me that wondered, am I supposed to play this right when I get to the venue, or is this something I'm supposed to play before I get to the venue? I know there's audio that accompanies, and I found that with the first one I was playing some between, and then with the second one I was sort of waiting until I got exactly to the venue to play them, just to have a slightly different like sense of how to inhabit it, the story, and especially since most of the pieces are referencing, you know, the actual some aspect of a physical location. So wanting to be there and hear the actor like talk about that environment. One thing that you mentioned with the technology too, and that I kind of hoped, and I've thought about this for projects of my own, but have not cracked it quite yet, which is, in some ways you want to be a substrate for interesting conversation between the people who are taking the experience. And I think some people feel comfortable saying like, well, what do you think? Or what's going on with them? Or do you think this guy's going to do that? Or this sort of thing. But I'm wondering if some other participants would enjoy more of a direct provocation to say, you know, in some artistic way, giving them something to talk about, provoking them to ask or talk to the other person in a way that seems organic to that moment.
You mean the other person that they might be with?
That they might be with, that's right. If they are with somebody. And we have to imagine that even if you started out by yourself, you're going to probably find somebody else along the way who's doing it, since you've got them in sort of time windows and things like that. That's obviously like a taste issue, but I think like there's a part of me that feels like I want to talk about this with somebody, like as we're doing it, because that's each one of them has kind of a little bit of a cliffhanger moment as you're walking from one place to the other. And so, yeah, for me it was a desire to, how do you enhance those walks to the other in maybe a more structured way, which is not necessary, but perhaps some people would like that idea of like, oh, what do you think she meant by that? Or, you know, that kind of sort of approach to storytelling.
Cool. I guess, I don't know where we're at with the time, but yeah, did you, do we...
Oh, do we want to take questions? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing, is that one of the things that impressed me with both of them, and even more so in the second one, is that I felt like your tastes were amazing about picking a place and something that's interesting and intriguing, even things that I'd kind of been into before with that new context of the story. I felt like a really great day had been planned for me in both of those instances. And so like that part is the remaining value for me, is that I felt like I had a great day in both of those, and I want to share that story, I want to share those locations, I want to go back to those locations, I want to tell friends about them, and just enough outside of my comfort zone. I never would have gone into Bar Toto and never would have had this particular drink that was chosen for me without doing that experience. And I know now when I go back to that place, I'll get that drink. And so that's kind of like connected to me now. Like it's interesting. And that part is, we didn't really get a chance to talk about it. There is so much, you know, we focused on like what could you make better and ending it there, which is like, I don't know if that's a good idea, but like there was so much, like there is so much great about the experience that, like, and that is, I think the promise of it, and you actually delivered on that, which is like what's so great about it to me. Yeah.
Well, and also it's just fascinating learning about the business model. I mean, one of the biggest challenges that transmedia creators are trying to figure out is how do we make money doing this? And James, you know, one of the key aspects of your project is a business model and the way that it was structured, rolling it out to different neighborhoods, bringing businesses involved. I mean, you're thinking about the business model, so that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and not only that, but it's like I think that the idea of last time I had to scale it very small, well, not very small, but smallish, because the yoga studio could only have a certain number of people come through, and so I could only sell a certain number of tickets on a certain day. And this is not the case. I can keep it open, and that's going to change how much money I make, obviously. So, yeah.
So questions?
Actually, just kind of going off that, I was wondering, what was your initial Kickstarter ask, and then how many participants did you have in the first one and in the second one?
Well, the second one just started, so I'm waiting to get the metrics on that. we had over 70 people come through the first one, and we had the Kickstarter was $5,000.
Questions?
Can you speak more about how you approached your sponsors this time around? Like
Yeah.
that process? I think that's always good to know about.
Well, you know what? Well, two of them were very easy, and the reason I say that is because I had approached Babeland for the Lower East Side experience, and they were very interested in it. And if anyone has worked with Babeland before, you know they're very they love to do sponsorships like this, whether it's a small thing for one-off or. But they're very interested in the arts, they like that. So I highly recommend reaching out to them, and they've been nothing but like spectacular. They threw us an opening night party, and it was really great. And Leah, who's the marketing person over there, is just top notch and on her game. And then Deluxe was my favorite coffee shop in the neighborhood, and so I knew Andy and Tina, and it was kind of an easy ask. Bartoto was a similar situation in the sense that it was a neighborhood. I lived in that neighborhood. I will be interested to see when I go to neighborhood number 3 how much more difficult it's going to be.
Did you approach more partners or sponsors, or did you just get lucky with those 3?
Lucky? I don't know. But
Or,
yeah,
well,
yeah. No, it was much easier with the Lower East Side experience, especially with the restaurant. And I don't know if I'll be doing many more partnerships or sponsorships with restaurants. It's very difficult because they don't want to give away food, which I completely understand. But it ended up being a big cut of my overhead last time around, and like I won't do that again. I mean, unless a restaurant's like, yeah, we'll give you an appetizer or something like that. You know, I could say maybe that happening. But you know, as far as like approaching them, I just said I'm looking for sponsors. You know, the first time around I was like, I'm looking for partners, and there's just a difference in the words. You know, and you know, this time around I only had one person. All the people I asked say, "What's it in for me?" And I'm like, nothing. Nothing's in it for you, man. I'm gonna see you later. I mean, there could be a lot in it for you if you really want to think about it. But if that's your attitude towards it, then and that's been my big thing about sponsors is that I know within the first like 5 to 10 minutes whether or not it's gonna go on to a further conversation. And to me, if it's not easy, because I'm not making any money on this, I mean, just making enough money to do the next thing and make my art. And you know, if I'm going to do that, then I want to work with people who are really cool. And these people are really cool. They are on board. They're having a good time. They're good to the participants that come through. I mean, like I think most people have a really good experience with the locations. And so, I mean, if it's not easy, then I'm walking out. That's how I look at it. I mean, it's Park Slope. There's 5,000 businesses in Park Slope. It's not hard to find. I mean, I can throw a stone. So, I mean, that's my attitude with it. I mean, like, unless I mentioned earlier something was like holy grail, and I was like, oh, I really want to do this. It's perfect. Then it's not worth it. It's just not worth it.
One more question.
Well, I have some really basic questions. What days is it? What times is it? How many people can do it at once? What equipment do you need to bring with you in order to hear the story? Are you a character in the story, or do you just listen to the story? Can you just give a run through it for somebody who's not done it and would be
I don't think
interested?
we have time for all of that, sir. What I will say is this. Go check out the website. Go to ny-hearts.com. You StoryCoders, I am giving a discount code, StoryCode 20. Tweet it. I don't care. Let people know about it. I'm trying to like spread the word far and wide, and I want you guys to do that. You need a smartphone that will play audio. If you don't have a smartphone that plays audio and you really want to go on it, you will get an email after you buy your ticket, and it'll tell you how to go through all the process of what you need to do. It's a one-pager of instructions. And if you don't have a smartphone but have an MP3 player, I will send you a link to download the MP3s, and you can. I'll send you a map, and you can go and do it that way. You won't have a lot of the extraneous pieces, but anyone who has an MP3 player can do this experience.
Android?
Android, yeah. Android is mobile web. So if you just pull up the website, which is what you would get after you bought your ticket, you would go to the mobile website, and all the content would load. It's password protected. Saturday, Sunday. Starts at 2 o'clock, ends at 5 o'clock. It's a lot of fun.
And so it's ny-hearts.com.
That's right.
More information there. Discount for StoryCode members. Awesome.
Highly recommended.
Awesome. Well, thank you, James, very much.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Okay, so next up we have a gentleman named Jon Vidar. I met Jon a month or so ago at South by Southwest. He came up to me after a panel that we did down there and told me about some of the stuff he was working on, and I thought it would be kind of right up our alley. So Jon runs an interactive agency in Los Angeles called Uncharted Digital, and they're focused on social impact storytelling, and specifically he's going to be presenting a project called StorySfrom, which is an immersive collaborative storytelling platform that was developed and supported through the Knight Foundation and co-sponsored by Google. So that's awesome. So we're looking forward to this, Jon. So welcome.
Yeah, I did not get a Kickstarter to get this going, unfortunately. Although I kind of want to now that we're out of money again. But that's a whole nother story and a bad business plan. But so I did a project called StorySfrom. Before I kind of get into this, I actually wanted to just give you a little bit of background on me and how I kind of ended up in front of you. I'm sure like most of you in the room, I got my start in new media through Near East archaeology. I was working on an excavation in southeast Turkey for many consecutive years, about 5 years, and archaeology really is all about storytelling. It is storytelling at its core. But what archaeology really did for me was it brought me to the Middle East in the first place. Like I was working in southeast Turkey in the Kurdish region, and I've always been kind of a hobby photographer since back in the day. But working on these excavations gave me access to the Kurdish community in a way that normal professional photographers might not get, because this actually was just one of my workmen. It was a friend, invited me over for lunch, I hung out in his house, and so I was able to get this kind of access. And after working for like 5 summers in the region, I had quite a portfolio, and that ended up turning into an exhibit that traveled around for a little while on Kurdish life, and actually started my more focused storytelling career as a photographer. I started shooting for Associated Press in Los Angeles, traveling around the world for Zuma Press, working for guidebooks, things like that. During the process, though, of being a photographer and going into these communities, I kind of realized that it wasn't quite right that I was just parachuting in and trying to tell the stories of these communities that they know way better than I do. So in grad school, a few of us decided that, in the age of YouTube, people should be able to tell their own stories in a journalistic way. It shouldn't be just relying on professional photographers to go in. So we started an organization called the Tiziano Project. It's named after Tiziano Terzani, who was an Italian journalist kind of known for going where he shouldn't go and telling local community stories. And we started with the idea of empowering communities through this self-sustaining journalism. I want to kind of start off with just showing a quick video on the organization because I think it will kind of explain it best.
I want to be a professional photographer to tell the people here a story they didn't know.
My name is Arfa Zabshe. I'm from East Jerusalem and I want to be a journalist to explain their feelings about what's going around them, let the world know what is going exactly here in Palestine and in East Jerusalem.
My name is Khalid Alawi. I'm interested in telling stories about Palestine and the Palestinians and how we suffer here and how it's like a prison here.
My name is Mariam Al-Tibi. I want to be a journalist because I think that there's so much in this country that people should see, and I want to show the world that we live here like everyone else.